Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Presentation Hell. We are podcasting here at Embark Studios in Tampa, Florida. Today, my guest is Katie Trott. She is a partner. Is it a principal and partner or just partner?
I think they're interchangeable. So
okay.
Whatever you want to call
interchangeable at Foundry Commercial, an important real estate concern here in Tampa.
Yes.
Good to have you here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So why don't we start by just give us a little introduction of who you are and what is Foundry?
Okay. Well, one, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited that we've got to meet each other through Leadership Tampa Bay.
Yes,
the best class ever.
Leadership Tampa Bay is one of the best organizations I've ever been involved in.
Yes. So I have been with Foundry Commercial since about a year after college. So I have been, don't do the math, but I've been with my company almost 20 years.
You just gave them the math. Go ahead.
I know, but don't do it. Don't calculate it. Couple different email addresses along the way, but I've been with my same people, again, for almost 20 years, year out of college. We're a full-service commercial real estate firm. We're headquartered in Orlando. We've got a pretty big office here in Tampa, and we're growing very fast. Full-service real estate company. We're one of the largest developers in the entire Southeast. My team does corporate real estate. So we represent companies when they need office and industrial space here in Tampa and or across the country.
Well, that's excellent. Have you?
Yeah.
So let's just kind of step back and where it brought you there. If you've been there 20 years, you must have been brought in at the straight level of just doing research, answering the phones, just being a part of the company. Back in the day, we used to answer the phones when you started at the company. Yes.
Right. I was a year out of college, and I was a commercial appraiser for about 9 months to a year, and I just realized that was not what I wanted to do. I had a finance and real estate degree from Florida State, and sent in my resume to Trammell Crow, which was one of the biggest commercial real estate companies at the time. And that was my dream job. I sent in my resume thinking, I will take an assistant position. I will take anything. That's the company I want to work for. And luckily, my resume got the attention of the guy who was running the office, and he hired me as his junior broker.
Oh, great.
So again, a year after college.
Why did you choose real estate? What was it inside of you that said, this is what I need and want?
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily my dad had a residential real estate company, and my mom was she's a tough cookie, and she's sharp. She's a very successful career woman. But I was going to Florida State. I was a finance major. When I was going to graduate, the market was not that great for finance jobs, and I could have graduated early. And at that time, Florida State football was amazing. I went to the national championship 3 out of the 4 years I was there. So I did not want to graduate early.
You didn't want to leave. You didn't want to go in. That's a special time to be in college when you're winning champion stuff.
3 out of 4 years.
You also have a strong role in the alumni organization. Isn't that true?
I do. Yeah, I do. But going back to the college, though, I picked up a real estate major as well. There was only 4 extra classes, wouldn't graduate early, double major. And that program was a lot smaller. So I knew the professors knew me, and they really helped me out. They set up all these amazing job interviews where if I was a finance major, I probably would have been a bank teller,
Swimming in numbers somewhere, pushing contracts.
Yeah, the market was not what it needed to be. And so I got so lucky picking up that real estate major.
So you would have graduated early. You needed an excuse to stay in school.
I did, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
See, now this isn't the normal. Most people find excuses to move away from school.
No, 4 years is how long I wanted to be in college.
And it's made a difference.
It's made such a difference. The real estate degree helped me so much. And, had a great job, great experience out of college. And then again, about a year after college, I got my dream job, my dream opportunity. And it's because I had 2 majors, finance and real estate from Florida State. I had internships while I was in school. I had an appraisal background.
You're ripping it up everywhere you go.
Well, I got really lucky at that point.
Well, right now here, we'll turn to today a little bit. Right now, markets are changing.
Yes.
The banks are challenged. Credit is beginning to dry up and get tighter. How is the difference? Like, you came from commercial real estate, now it's more industrial on a level, and you moved to partner and stuff. How do you see the Tampa market right now in this challenging situation?
Well, thank goodness we're in Tampa. It's a whole different story than if we were sitting in another city of the country, especially
like New York City.
Woo, yeah, we'd be having a different conversation right now.
Yes.
But we're in Tampa, and Tampa has thrived through all of this craziness. So obviously, what I'm seeing in front of us right now is scary as a macro world,
Mhm.
but micro in Tampa, we definitely are seeing a lot more opportunities, and we have such growth as far as people moving here and wanting to be here. I mean, Tampa is absolutely on the map, and that's happened in the last 3 to 5 years. COVID, crazy
Helped
enough,
Tampa.
helped Tampa.
I moved here from New York City
Yes.
during COVID
Yes.
because of the building I'm in, Embark Collective, and a variety of other things. And it was kind of summed up working in New York. They put their hand out when they asked for something. When I came to Tampa, they put their arms out and hugged me and welcomed me. And it's a much bigger, and you're just reverberating that.
Yeah, it's mind blowing how great our city is and how much we are thriving in comparison to everywhere else in the world, in the country, in the state even. But Tampa, office is experiencing some really.
What are the
crazy-
hottest areas in Tampa right now for office and then industrial? And I'm just going to clarify the two of these here because I drive on the freeway and I see what seems like 3 miles of just truck bays, like one big warehouse that's huge.
Yeah.
Is that like the future? Did that wipe out 100 other warehouses in the community, or
No,
what is going on here?
didn't.
What do I see when I see that?
There's such a big demand for industrial real estate and the I-4 corridor. So everything between Tampa and Orlando is pretty much going to be one big industrial corridor at some point in time. I mean, we're already seeing that. Lakeland and Plant City are experiencing massive amounts of population growth and also industrial growth because so much of the state's population is here on this I-4 corridor. So we're going to continue to see a lot of growth in those markets. We're not seeing quite the same activity that we were, but the activity that we were seeing before the past, let's say, 6 months, it was not possible to continue that. I mean, we had negative vacancy rates almost in this area, and we see that a lot with industrial across the country.
Is that because of like distribution in this area and possibly e-commerce, where a lot of people are moving more to that type of purchases, where it's going through what used to end up being a consumer channel is now an industrial, shipped out and delivered at your doorstep?
There's a lot of factors. I mean, COVID, it was already happening a lot. Amazon has changed the world in so many different ways. So that was already happening where you needed to have a last mile location so that goods could be delivered, within 4 hours the next day. And then COVID really just put that over the top where, all these products were overseas and we couldn't get them. There were so many delays as far as, the shipping containers and getting
And Tampa
across
was
here.
still open when many of the other ports were closed.
Yes, right. I mean, if you look at those stories and those videos of the California ports during COVID, where there were so many ships out there they couldn't even get in, and all of our goods and services were rotting in ports, on the other side of the country. So, I mean, that really changed things. People realized that we need to bring production back to the United States so that we're not in that situation. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on in our world right now. So manufacturing items in the United States, again, is a good thing. Like, we need that to happen, and people are bringing that back. But you also need to have bigger inventory so that in case something like that ever happens again.
So that's where those big warehouses, they're a combination of some of the manufacturing as well as warehousing, shipping, distribution. And I think one of the things you were kind of pointing out is Tampa being on the west coast of Florida. You said 4 hours. It puts you almost, to all of Georgia. And if you draw a circle, it brings you Atlanta and Jacksonville and Orlando and Sarasota and Fort Myers. And at the bottom, you end up with Miami and company. So the place we are actually probably services 25% of the country, possibly. I don't know what the numbers are. I guess you would know these numbers.
Probably. When we did our transportation day, when we were at the port, what was the number? They said that the amount of gasoline that comes into our port, that I think it's about 46% of the state's
gasoline refueled,
comes into
through
the Tampa port.
They said everything within 100 miles of gas station of where we sit is comes through this port, and I was like blown away by it.
Mind blowing.
The size of the port is actually 10 times bigger in size than Miami, and when I heard that, I was like, "Holy crap! How did that happen?" But there's a limit on the Causeway Bridge that connects St. Pete south that I think gets it. It's like a few feet,
Miami's a whole nother world. I mean, we're not going to compete with Miami Port whatsoever.
It's a different place. I see the two of them as Miami has its own identity. It's got its, international nightlife. It's Latino. It's got its own music. It's got its own spring break. It's got its own history. It's got its own bottle service and everything that goes along with it. But Tampa has its own unique identity that is yet to be understood by everyone. Like, people can think of New Orleans and go, God, that's Mardi Gras. That's, casino gambling. That's party and festivity. You think of Miami and you think of these things. But when you think of Tampa, it hasn't taken that root, and I think it's just happening and germinating right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something on this, and we'll kind of leave it here and go to the second half. Is I think Tampa is about 5 years into a 100-year growth spurt.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, I mean, because it's been 3 to 5 years that our Tampa has just absolutely just gone gangbusters. So I think you're absolutely right, and there's no stopping it at this point. I think that what we're seeing is just the beginning. Tampa's been a great place. I've loved living here for almost 20 years. However, the last 3 to 5 years is where things have just really started to happen, and it's like, wow, this is unbelievable. I had people from my Nashville office in town last week to show them Tampa because it's very much on their radar screen. And they could not believe what they were going to see. They had high expectations, but they had no idea of just how amazing this little, quote unquote, little city is. And it's growing. And to hear your story, I mean, just similar.
I'll give an analogy for this place, and I've seen it all the time. When I went to the University of Houston, I landed there in the mid-'80s. I hit the airport, I went downtown, and there was a few sparse buildings and a bunch of parking garages. Yeah. Or parking lots. And as you got outside, there were shotgun shacks, the old post-World War II, non-air conditioned, block type, poor type housing going out. You saw the university. And then the nicer neighbors were starting and going up. That was in 19... And... Ironically, the university was founded 50 years earlier than that. And I saw that, and I was like, oh. So now I look at Houston, and all those parking lots are done. They're all large buildings. There's Minute Maid Stadium. There's Vietnamville. And all those shotgun shacks are now million-dollar condos of several things. The university's now in what used to be a murder every night to coming up neighborhood where everything's happening. I landed in Tampa Airport in 2021. The airport was founded 50 years earlier in 1971. I come downtown, there's a few sparse buildings and a bunch of parking lots waiting to be developed. I go a mile outside, and there's shotgun shacks being ripped down, and townhouses put on it. It's the same type of trajectory. So I could look at Houston and what happened over the past 30 years and know exactly what's going to be unfolding in this downtown area here in Tampa. And if anyone wants a real opportunity for what's going on, listen to what I just said, because that is the future unfolding in front of us, our eyes. Okay. So, and just as a note on presentations, tell me about a presentation.
Okay, well, actually, it's funny. We did a presentation about 5-7 years ago, and it was a book, and it was so much data. And we went into a room with a bunch of executives, and we bored them. I could see their faces. We bored them. And this was not, I did not necessarily like this presentation. And I know that the other group that won this business, they came in and they talked. And then I've also been to a presentation seminar recently where our company is really good, and they do these big whiteboards. And they do these, living wall type presentations.
Where they're gathering information from the people of the audience and putting it on the wall and letting everyone see all the thoughts coming out at once.
And it's just absolutely mind-blowing of, everybody in the room working together to come up with a solution. And what do you think? What do you think? Oh, yeah, okay, how about that?
Is this how Foundry works?
It does now. We learned our lessons from that presentation 5 to 7 years ago, because, again, that was a total snooze fest. And so you just can't do that anymore. The world has changed. You need to
entertain.
People
are used to being entertained. A basic strategy that we lay out in the book here is hit them with emotion first. The person will make their judgment based on how they feel, and then you follow up with all the data, and they will use the data to reinforce their decision that they made in the very beginning. And you can see this in the hunger videos and things like that, where they'll show you a picture of a little girl that's hungry, and they'll say, don't you want to feed the girl? And by the time you've said that, you're like, of course I do.
Right.
And then they're like, for 35 cents a day. And you're like, 35 cents a day? I can do. And suddenly you're using the numbers to put it back in there. And if you were cold and callous and thought, no, I don't want to pay that 35 cents a day. You realize that's $30 a month? I could save that and put, and buy new shoes, whatever the case may be. But with presentations like that, grab them emotionally, feed them the data so they can make their decision.
Yeah.
Any great presentation you have seen about the future of Tampa?
I was with Brian Murphy actually from ReliQuest recently, who were in Embark, and
he loves this place.
Yeah, he mentioned this place a bunch of times, and just hearing him talk about Tampa, and I was lucky enough to see his new space over at Water Street, and just hear the passion of his story and how that all happened and everything that's going on.
This is the leading technology company here in Tampa. It's called ReliQuest.
Yeah.
And Brian Murphy's the CEO, and he's a benefactor here at Embark. And I've seen him talk. It's really, really disarming and gives you a lot of information in the process. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and anyone who's involved with the Columbia and all those restaurants, I mean, every time I hear any of them speak, I literally tear up just hearing their love for Tampa. It's absolutely amazing. They know every single block in Tampa and can just rattle off every little thing that has ever happened in our beautiful city, and they just want to make it better. So if you ever have a chance to hear any of them,
I will
do that.
Without a question. I understand you've been in Tampa for a while, but tell me a little bit about where you grew up. What happened? What brought you here? Tell me a little bit about you so that people know who you are as a person.
Okay. Well, I grew up outside of Philadelphia. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and my family decided to get out of the rat race around my junior year of high school, and my mom had some great job opportunities to move to Tampa or Orlando, and I was not thrilled because I grew up 16 and a half years of my life outside of Philadelphia, same people, and
you were in high school.
We moved halfway through my junior year in high school,
and let
me tell you, I was not happy with that. That was less than ideal. And it was a big change. We came to Tampa, actually, we looked at houses, and we must have looked at a weird part of Tampa because, and Tampa, again, at that time was not that great. And now looking back, it's completely transformed, similar to what we talked about. And then we went to Orlando, and we looked at houses, and my high school was across the street from went to Dr. Phillips, was across the street from Universal Studios. So some of the classrooms had the roller coasters of Universal Studios
in the background.
So we picked Orlando. And
was that because of you or because of your mother?
The houses were nicer in the area that we looked at. The high school was nicer.
That always boils it down.
Yeah.
It's schools, homes, things like that.
And I think we should talk about, too, the West Shore versus downtown connection also. So I think we should get back to that in a little bit of just, but yeah, so we moved to Orlando. It was wild. I mean, graduating class of 200 people in Philadelphia, 1,200 in my Orlando class. It was 2 weeks before anyone even noticed that there was a new kid that was in the school. So I mean, it was like moving to Mars. It really was. But I think looking back at your life, there was asterisks, and that there was an asterisk by that moment that I had to get out of my comfort zone.
What was the biggest lesson you learned in that process? It's one thing to look at it as a teenager and go, I'm not going and be a teenager. But now that we're not teenagers and you look back at it, what was the biggest lesson that made you as a person that, you got from that?
I think I was, shy, and I lived in a bubble.
You're not shy. I can tell you that right now at this point.
That's part of it. Yeah, I mean, I had to get out of the bubble. I had to get out of my comfort zone. And so I think that was such a big part of who I am today because I had to go make new friends. I had to, start my life all over again. And so I think that was a huge part of who I am today.
Did you take parts of I just moved down here.
Yeah.
And this might be separate, and I'm going to convey this a little bit, and I don't know if it makes sense. And let me tell you, if I go over the edge, excuse me.
I will tell you.
I drove back and forth looking for a place between New York and Florida. I went to the different cities. And during that time, I was doing a lot of soul searching and things like that. And one of the things I did is I took inventory of the person I was, the personality I was, the things that made people like me, the things that made people attracted to me, the things that pushed them away, the things that I was not good at, the things I was good at. And I tried to pick the things I was good at and the things that made me a more attractive person on, whether it's business or whatever the case may be. and then said, I'm going to use these pieces of my personality and put them forth so that I can be received in this new area the best person that I am. That might be a lot for a college or a high school kid, but
I would love to say that I was doing that back then. I mean, now I think so for sure. But at that point, I was just winging it. I mean, I was just trying to make friends and trying to have fun and just get by. So I wish I could say that.
I couldn't have done that at 17 or 16. I would have never went there. I said it out loud so people can hear that, because it isn't important. The sooner you learn who you are and what you're good at, the sooner because the things you do crappy, why the hell do you have to keep on doing them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good life lesson. I like it.
That's right. If you're bad at something, just do the things you're good at. People will love you for it.
Right. Or improve upon those things you're bad at.
Well, you don't want to draw a light on it. I get that.
But I can't give myself credit for that. I wish I could give myself credit for that, but no, I definitely did not. Ooh, the chocolate. Okay.
See, we have a little bit of chocolate here brought from the Hamptons Chocolate Factory, which is another company that is in the Hamptons in New York, and the kids took off to University of Tampa here, and they opened a chocolate shop on Sparkman Wharf over there. So we brought some right here. So here you go. I'm going to pour out a couple of these, even though everyone can see it.
Okay.
I don't know if you want which ones you want, but this one leaves.
They both look delicious.
Yeah. Did I have another top here? But we can just pull those out.
Yeah, pull that out. Delish.
You see, these have made, even though we are eating the first bit, they've made more than 3 other people smile this morning already. Chocolate makes people smile. Give chocolate away. You'll.
Sea salt caramel. Oh my goodness gracious. Holy smokes. Delish.
That's perfect. So you grew up in Philadelphia, came down to Florida, became this non-shy person, outgoing, learned who you are, and put your feet down after going to FSU, right?
Yep, FSU.
And when you were about to graduate and you needed to stay there a little longer, is how you got into real estate, and that's what brought you here today.
Yeah. I had several job opportunities, some in Atlanta, some here, 2 here, but several others. And everybody at Florida State that I knew that was from Tampa, they're really nice people. I just remember that. I had never been to Tampa before my interviews, actually. I just had a lot of friends that were from Tampa, and I liked them all. And so I was like, that Tampa place, I kind of like there. I'm interested in that. Well,
it reinforces my thing that Tampa put their arms out when to welcome you, as opposed to their hand out wanting something from you.
I can't think of many cities that have the same community and the same type of people. I mean, there are so many great people here that just want to make this place a better city. Here's
a little story on that. Is I came down here and I toured Embark, and like one of the first weeks I was here there was a hurricane, a Rays game, and they won the Stanley Cup. And it was all in like 3 or 4 days, and I took an interview and I went back to New York, and I got a call from someone. I picked up my phone and I was like, Tampa number. Okay, and I answer it. And I'm talking on the phone, and it's this lady, Jane, and she's telling me all about the things she's going to do and help out with the police department and how our business can do well. And I'm thinking someone at the Economic Development Corporation Council, bringing people in.
Right.
I hang up the phone. I was like, damn, that person was knowledgeable. I type her name, James Castor. I'm like, holy crap, the mayor just invited me down. But it was a symbol of what the people in this community are. It's a symbol of how people are brought together and they're looking at a common goal. There's not the resentment, the competition. There's space to grow. You can do things. And in every step of the way, whether it was the EDC, the mayor's office, the Embark Collective, Leadership Tampa Bay, every one of them have been looking at the future in a positive way, and it's been some of the best energy I've ever felt in my life. I appreciate everyone in Tampa. Thank you.
Me too.
See, so with that, let's talk about Tampa real estate specifically. What are the areas like West Shore, and what are the areas that are like happening and why? And if someone were looking at it, and I know you're not in residential as much, but where are the areas that are happening and why?
Yeah. So we already touched on industrial. I-4 corridor is obviously going to be happening for a very, very long time.
The I-4 corridor is the road between Tampa and Orlando. So this is area that's just going to be one development of distribution is what you see happening.
So much growth is going to be occurring in that little area. I mean, we already have massive industrial developments going up where we didn't before, but we've got a lot of space hitting the market. So the industrial market everywhere is going to be very, very hot.
What does that mean for jobs? What type of jobs live in these industrial buildings that are getting developed?
There's, if you can drive a truck, if you can drive a forklift, if you can do these skilled jobs, there are really high wages in those positions.
So it's the tools and mechanisms that make distribution, the things that put the Amazon package on your doorstep, whether it's a forklift bringing a pallet of stuff, or it's a truck delivery, or it's maintaining those facilities, or it's designing the routes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's where the main part of it. It's not assembling things. It's
all of the above. I mean, they're all of these, depending on if it's distribution or if it's just warehousing. I mean, there's a full range of what you're needed there. But a lot of these need high skilled trade workers, and there's a huge shortage of that. So, there's so many conversations these days about college and trades. Well, trades is something that's been underutilized, and everybody would go to college, which is a great thing. However, you can make a lot of money if you know how to drive a forklift, if you know how to drive a big semi truck, if you have, if you know how to weld, if you're a plumber, if you're
assembling furniture, assembling things,
anything.
Bringing things.
Yeah, I mean, those jobs are so hot right now.
So you're saying these complexes that are bringing in property are actually assembling a lot of the things that go in it, whether it's welding, whether it's woodworking, whether it's,
all of the
it's
above.
almost like IKEA on steroids, coming in, bringing the parts in, assembling and going. They're not actually creating the raw materials of it, but they're assembling the delivery of the packaging and stuff. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, every single company is different. So there's all, so full gamut of what is needed. So, but yes, the trades and trades, plumber, electrician, we're also needing those to build all these multifamily developments that we're having. There's shortages all across the board as far as the trades and the industrial type.
And remember, no matter what job you think will disappear because of ChatGPT or something, everyone needs the crap out of their house. So plumbing has high value.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's not going to change.
That's a good life. Yeah.
Turn the light on.
A lot of money.
That's right.
Because there's a shortage. But so industrial, there's a long runway with industrial in the state of Florida, in the Southeast, in the Tampa Bay area. It's exciting for the industrial market. Office is crazy. I mean, it's a tale of multiple different cities almost. The Class A new construction in Tampa is so expensive, and they're filling up.
This type of stuff, where is that? Is that like Water Street? Is that up on the
It's the new
riverfront?
building by the airport that's 100% leased. It's Midtown, where the Whole Foods just moved to. It's over by Armature Works. So that's the new office developments in the Tampa Bay area. And they are doing unbelievably well. Extremely high rates. And companies don't care. They're willing to pay for that because they want the employees to come back to the office. They're realizing that
makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, just walking around this Embark location, I mean, you need to talk to people. You need to collaborate. And so much of that is being lost by people working from home. I think it's great to have a mix, if you're working from home a little bit, but the office does have.
Well, it makes a difference. There's a learning. How does someone go through a internship or becoming an apprentice to a banker if you're not in the same room when the deals are going on? You don't hear them on the side. You don't know when a client's upset and someone who's handling it. Yeah, you might not be in the middle of it, but you understand it. And everyone knows that. I personally have a feeling that there is going to be a time in the near future. When COVID hit, people went home. And they got the benefits of being home, and they're excellent being home. I want to, do all those type of things. I don't want to commute. I don't want all that type of stuff. But there's a missing thing in the companies that are coming together. And while the people still have value there are going to be young people coming in that are going to be there every day. And they're going to be sitting and hearing the client problem here, the success on this side, the bill not being paid over here, someone making a sales call and having a success. And then some emergency is going to happen, and I'm going to turn to the person right in front of me. And that shift of power is going to flatten like this, and people that are home are going to be like, oh, my God, I haven't known anyone for 3, 5, 7 years. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it's going to, the few people that have huge value are going to really stay on that. This is my own theory on it. So.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you have to listen to what is happening and figure out how to solve those problems. I mean, when I first got started, I shared an office with a guy on my team who, I listened to every single word he said, how he handled clients and what he was doing. And he was there to ask questions. I mean, I remember being at home for 2 months after COVID and going back and starting having meetings again. And I didn't know what to do with my hands, I mean, like such a simple thing of somebody who's been in business for so long. And just even 2 months of being away from that social go atmosphere. I mean, I literally was going into meetings or going to networking events and just, you don't know what to do with your hands, like let alone somebody who hasn't had a job, was in college all this time, didn't have that experience, and then they're trying to put themselves in the real world. Really, what do you do with your hands at that point? How do you network? How do you... So I
ironically, you're talking about presentation, aren't you?
Right. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you got rusty on how to present and how to interact and all that, and it's
and you
really
can't
important.
Do that, and that's just yourself. I mean So I feel bad for these kids that are coming out of college and they're not getting that experience firsthand. And, if you have the opportunity to go back to the office, go back to the office. Because
that is really good advice, guys.
Yeah. Because, it just come time to, get a promotion. The kid who's back in the office and, working, they're coming back. But
it's also resilient.
Going back to your question, I mean, Class A office space in Tampa is doing great. The BC stuff, there's going to be some serious problems. And, we as a whole world are going to have to figure out what to do with that because they're
when you say BC, are these like strip malls for everyone listening? No. Like the A property, we know those are the glass buildings. They're nice businesses. You want your name on the top of it. You're proud. But what's a BC type of place? Is that a warehouse? Is that a strip mall? Is that what are we talking about?
Yeah, so you've got different food groups. You've got the industrial space, and then I was talking about office for right now. Office ABC. So A is the highly amenitized, great location space where everybody's going to want to be.
Yep.
A B is not going to have amenities. They're going to be off the beaten path. They're probably going to be 1 or 2 stories. Office space. So it's not going to be a place that you're going to be able to pull employees back.
Yeah.
If you're an employee,
it's people just doing work. It's you're getting the stuff done.
Yeah,
that's my space.
Just going to the office. You're not there to necessarily, feel the excitement of an office. So the BC offices are really struggling, and they're going to be a little bit out of date. Retail's actually doing amazing in Tampa. You feel like, oh, COVID, Amazon's changing the world. Retail is dead. That's not true.
That's good to know. That's good to hear because it's important to have people around that are actually doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the statistic is that there's about 50% of the malls in the state of Florida, probably in the country, are dead malls. Look at
malls are they have a wicked challenge upon them right now.
Yeah. Well, International Mall, that is doing great. People are still going there, but
down the street, like you said, A properties will still survive. It's
great.
People downstream that have a problem. I've seen this all around the country.
Yeah, absolutely. But like West Shore Mall, dying mall, and they have great plans to change that to make that a mixed use development with retail, medical, office, low income residential. So I mean that would totally change that mall, and that's really what needs to happen. Is mixed use is the buzzword these days, I would say.
Is this something that you know about, or is this something?
Yeah, it's out there.
It's out there and it's on its way.
And there's plans, and there's been approvals. There's a issue though. I think with funding, and I believe
there's always issues with funding. There's always issues with politics. There's always issues with just about anything.
Yeah, pre-COVID it was going, but I believe there's some bankruptcy issues and all kinds of stuff. But that'll be another conversation.
Okay. So to wrap this up, tell me what you think the future of Tampa and Tampa real estate is, and kind of sum it up in 30 seconds or a minute or so.
Well, we live in Tampa. Thank goodness. Thank goodness we live in Tampa. Again, if we were having this conversation somewhere else, it would be a whole different conversation. But as you said, we are in the 3 to 5 year block of a 100-year journey. I mean, really exciting.
So you agree with that analysis?
I could not agree. Okay. I could not agree more. I think that what we've got going on here is absolutely exciting, and more to come. We're just beginning. So yeah.
Tampa's at the beginning, and it's a good place to be.
Yes, but there's not a lot of houses to move here. So
No,
you're
yeah,
around
housing
that
is going to go up
Yeah.
as well.
Unless you need office or warehouse space, don't come.
All right. So, Katie, thank you for coming on the show today. I hope
you so
everyone
much.
enjoyed enjoyed our conversation here. It was really nice. I really appreciate it.
So great to talk to you.
And I appreciate Leadership Tampa Bay more than you know, and I thank you for being a part of it, because it makes everyone here welcome, and the knowledge that is conveyed through that organization is going to benefit this community for the next 20, 30, 50 years, and that's part of the reason why there's a 100-year growth plan.
I couldn't agree more.
I'd like to thank Presentation Hell, the book, for being our sponsor here tonight. It brought Katie and everyone together today. So buy the book, learn the strategies that make presentations easier, better, more effective for a global organization. Thank you all for listening today, and leaving you now. Thank you. Oh, that's right. Get the book.